Hi, my name is Charles Tran with Live Mobile Technology. In part 1 of our Ubiquiti PBE 5AC series, we started with the assembly of the PBE 5AC wireless bridge. Then, in part 2, we walked you through the mounting process to get your device securely in place. If you missed parts 1 and 2, don't worry. There's a link in the description below to help you catch up. Today, in part 3, we're jumping into the programming phase of the Ubiquiti Power Beam 5AC. We're focusing on getting the transmitter side set up and ready to go. Then, in part 4, we'll take care of the receiver side. Let me quickly show you a diagram that explains why we need both a transmitter and a receiver in this setup. On the right, we have transmitter A. This device acts as an access point, wirelessly sending the internet signal. On the left, we have receiver B, which operates as a station and receives the signal, creating a point-to-point wireless bridge between the two. As you can see in the diagram, the internet signal flows from A to B, allowing the two devices to communicate seamlessly over long distances. This is how we establish a strong, stable wireless link for high-speed internet transmission. Now that we understand the connection, let's move on to programming. Start by opening your web browser and entering the default IP address for the power beam, 192.168.1.20. If you see a no internet error, it's because your computer's IP address is not in the same subnet as the power beam. Click on the Wi-Fi icon or network icon in the bottom right corner of your screen. This opens a menu where you can access network settings. From there, click on Network and Internet Settings. Select Ethernet. Click on Change Adapter Options. Locate your Ethernet connection. Right-click it and choose Properties. Select Internet Protocol version 4, TCP/IPv4, and click Properties. Note, the default setting is Obtain an IP address automatically. In order to connect to the UBNT power beam, you will need to connect to the same octet, which is 192.168.1. Choose the option Use the following IP address. Enter IP address 192.168.1.100. Ensure this is different from the power beam's IP, but within the same subnet. Enter subnet mask 255.255.255.0. Enter default gateway 192.168.1.1. Enter the following DNS settings. The preferred DNS server is 8.8.8.8, and the alternate DNS server is 8.8.4.4. Click OK to save your changes. Note, after programming the power beam, don't forget to revert your computer's IP settings back to obtain an IP address automatically. This ensures your computer can reconnect to regular networks. After completing the settings, your devices should look like this. The power beam will have the IP address 192.168.1.20. Your computer will have the IP address 192.168.1.100. The key concept is that both devices need to be on the same subnet, 192.168.1, but must have different IP addresses. In this case, the power beam ends with 0.20. The computer ends with 0.100. This setup allows them to communicate effectively. Note, it's better to use a PoE standalone network switch when configuring the two devices. Connect the power beam and your computer to the PoE network switch using an Ethernet cable. The network switch is set up using 192.168.1 octet, which allows for up to 254 IP addresses. To elaborate, we only need 2 IP addresses because we have 2 devices. First is the power beam, 192.168.1.20. This is the default IP assigned by Ubiquiti. It must be within the same subnet as other devices for proper communication. The second one is the computer, 192.168.1.100. The computer needs an IP within the same range to access and configure the power beam. The user can choose any IP between 192.168.1.1 and 192.168.1.254, as long as it doesn't conflict with another device's IP. Once the configuration is complete, you can unplug the PowerBeam Ethernet cable from the PoE standalone network switch and connect it back to the local area network switch in the server rack. The LAN switch operates on the 192.168.68 network, meaning all devices on this network must have an IP address within the range 192.168.68.1 to 192.168.68.254 to communicate properly. Next, open the command prompt and type ipconfig to view your IP address settings. Once confirmed, you can proceed with the network configuration. Return to your web browser and enter the default IP address 192.168.1.20. You may encounter a warning that says, "Connection is not private." Click Advanced, then proceed to the IP address. The first step is to set the device's country and language preferences. Click Agree and then Continue. Next, create a username and password for the device. After entering the credentials, click Save. Now that you've successfully accessed the dashboard of the first PowerBeam, the transmitter, via its IP address 192.168.1.20, it's time to configure it for communication with the second PowerBeam, the receiver. The transmitter, A, will be responsible for sending the internet signal to the receiver, B, creating a wireless bridge between the two devices. In the diagram, you can see the flow of the internet signal from the transmitter to the receiver, illustrating how these devices work together to establish the link. Once logged in, you will be directed to the UBNT dashboard. Navigate to the System section to configure the device name. Delete the default name and rename it to LMT1, which is the transmitter. In Part 4, we'll move on to configuring the receiver side LMT2 and finalizing the wireless link between the two power beams. Then click Save Changes. Then, go to Network and change the default IP address from 192.168.1.20 to 192.168.68.71. Change the net mask to 255.255.252.0. Set the gateway IP to 192.168.68.1. Leave the primary DNS server as it is. Set the secondary DNS server to 8.8.4.4. Change the network mode to bridge mode. Then, hit Save Changes. Remember, we are using 192.168.68.71 on the server switch, which is the IP we need for Beam A's LMT1 configuration. Once you save the new settings, the system will automatically log you out and reconnect using the new IP address of the transmitter, 192.168.68.71. If the connection doesn't automatically restore, you may need to click the Wi-Fi icon in the taskbar Access Network and Internet Settings. Navigate to Ethernet Click Change Adapter Options. Locate your Ethernet connection. Right-click it. Select Internet Protocol version 4, TCP/IPv4, and click Properties. Change the setting from Use the following IP address to Obtain an IP address automatically. Then click OK. Go back to the browser. Access the IP 192.168.68.71 again, enter your credentials, and click Login. At this stage, you should have already plugged the Ethernet cable back into the server rack switch, as shown in the diagram. Next, go to the wireless section, change the channel width to auto, and click Save Changes. You may be prompted to log in again after making these changes. Return to the wireless settings and select the SSID to connect to a network. Once selected, wait on the dashboard for the status of the power beam. Next, run a speed test to ensure your connection is strong and stable. Note, this is a slow connection, so you must update the firmware to improve the connection speed. To ensure your connection is fast and stable, consider updating the firmware. Simply navigate to the System section, select Check for Updates, and click Check Now, and click Download. Now that LMT1 is online and transmitting, we're ready to configure LMT2. In part 4 of our next video, we'll walk you through setting up LMT2 as the receiver to complete our point-to-point wireless bridge. You can find the link to that video below in the description. So stay tuned and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon to stay updated with all my content. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments below, and I'll be happy to respond. Thanks for watching.